So we are the Brighter Tomorrows Consulting Group,
Okay.
and you are the Board of Directors at Tyler Technologies.
We are the Board of Directors at Tyler Technologies. Excellent. Once again, welcome to IBECC, and please begin.
Thank you. Hello, Board of Directors at Tyler Technologies. My name is Leah Butterfield, and I am a representative from the Brighter Tomorrows Consulting Group. I'm here with my team, Brent, Sam, Gray, and Daniel. And we have been asked here by CEO John Marr to conduct a thorough investigation into your company to find problems and risks you may be having in the financial, legal, and ethical components of your business. So let me just let you guys know that we are not here to assign blame or culpability. I wish I could tell you a happy story today, but unfortunately that is not the case. We have found several problems, and we want to make sure you all have an understanding of these problems moving forward so that you can make the correct decisions in mitigating any risks that may come up. Great, sorry. So let me just ask you one question. What kind of company do you want to be? Tyler Technologies is a company that provides software solutions to counties so that they can perform essential functions. Now, they provide software solutions for functions such as schools or the justice system. You say in your mission statement that you would like to make local government more accessible to the public, responsive to the needs of the citizens, and for local government to operate more efficiently. Now, in order to do this, we believe you should start by taking a look at the IBECC case management system, which provides, as you know, support to the local justice systems. The problems we've found stem primarily from technology. These problems have several unintended consequences. It has consequences for the users, which is the local government, as well as those that rely on the users, which is the general public. What these consequences look like is people being wrongfully arrested, incarcerated longer than they're supposed to be, up to 2 months we've seen. Some criminals are kept in jail longer than necessary. As I said, also some are erroneously released early, which is a problem as well. It's reclassifying both offenders and offenses, as well as we've seen bail system inefficiencies. It's affecting the users as well. What we've seen is a backlog of records. In Alameda County, there's a backlog of over 12,000 records, and this is increasing by 300 a day. Judges, lawyers, clerks, they're unable to access records about 50% of the time. There's been calendar issues, as well as excess time and resources used to fix the software, and record input inefficiencies as well. So to delve into the technology, I'm going to hand this off to my colleague Brent, and he's going to break it down for you.
Thank you, Leah. So as I talk more about some of the technological problems associated with IBECC, I'd like to first talk briefly about how Tyler currently implements their software. So you implement what's called phased rollout software integration. And essentially what this means is a county will come to you and buy a suite of software. And the suite of software will contain many bits of software. So rather than installing all these bits of software at the same time, you install them one at a time, making sure that for each new piece of software you install into the system, it integrates well with all other softwares currently existing in the system. It's almost like if you solve a Rubik's Cube and you slap on another dimension to it and then resolve it again until you have no more software to install. And this is a tried and true method within the field of computer science to integrate software. However, sometimes you do run into the issue where multiple teams will work on multiple bits of software. And so trying to integrate them into the same system can lead to confusion and sometimes data quality issues, as we'll talk more about. So we're suggesting that Tyler focus more on what's called test-driven development. And so essentially what this means is all the source code that you write is written around predetermined test cases for which you know that your software is likely to encounter, to understand in what different kinds of environments IBECC is going to behave and how to fix these sort of mitigations that you will come across. And so what are some things that we can test? We can test for varying sizes of counties because, as we know, not all counties that use Odyssey will be of the same size. And you can also check for record input and output comparisons, and I'll talk more about that. And so being the board of directors for Tyler, you know that your company is what's called a SaaS company, and that stands for software as a service. So rather than deploying your software on-prem solutions installed locally on hard drives, you provide your services over an internet connection. Except currently the way that it's set up, counties have the option to either go the Tyler Cloud route or the on-prem hard drive installation route. And so what this means is it's very efficient to push the current bill to all cloud solutions. However, when you have these on-prem solutions, it makes it difficult to make sure that they're all running the same build as well. So we're suggesting to mitigate these long-term risks to convert all counties to the cloud, such that it makes it so much easier to push updates because in this scenario, you'll have one server-side location to run patches and effectively push them all to your clients at the same time. And so I've been talking a lot about some of the long-term risk mitigation techniques that we're suggesting, but we do have some serious problems on our hands right now. And so I'd like to talk more about some of the short-term risk mitigation techniques that we're suggesting. And the key element in this solution that we're suggesting is to stress test Odyssey. And essentially what this means is to understand how Odyssey behaves when it's working at its maximum payload. And so what you can do is to run the stress test, you can generate a list of records that equals the amount that Odyssey can handle at one particular time. So you have all these records, and you can input them into the system, and then retrieve the same list of records on the opposite side. And you compare these two sets of data, pre-data entry and post-data entry. And the idea is that you're supposed to have identical sets of data, because we, as the users of Odyssey, should be changing and altering records, and not the software itself. And it actually turns out that this stress test is very cheap and efficient to do. There's a software called Macro Scheduler, which essentially automates Windows tasks, and it's only $85, and you can train it to understand how to input a record into the Odyssey system. So once your software knows how to input a record, you can do that times X amount of records, because let's say you're testing 50,000 records. It takes a long time to manually input 50,000 records into the system. So this makes it very easy to input records and make sure that you have the same set of data pre and post data entry. And so now that I've talked about some of the technological problems associated with Odyssey, I'd like to pass it back to Leah, who's going to talk about the legal side of our case.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to break down the legal dimensions of our case into 4 components. First being that harm has been caused and laws have been broken. There have been legal repercussions as a result of these harms. These legal repercussions will most likely continue, and they will cause severe financial risk as well. And our solution will help to mitigate these risks in the long run. So as far as harm being caused and laws being broken, in regards to the individual, Tyler is breaking laws regarding negligence. And this we see in the wrongful arrests that we spoke of and wrongful incarceration as well. Now, when it comes to government, we see breach of contract and loss of consideration as well as deceptive trade practices. What this looks like is the backlog of resources. There's harm being caused to the general public as well, and this is in wasting taxpayer money just because of the inefficiencies involved in the software. Tyler Technologies knowingly contracted with governments. This is what they chose to do as their business. So it therefore has a duty to the general public, knowingly going into these government contracts and attempting to make the government more efficient. So because you have this duty to the public, and because the taxpayers pay the governments who then pay you, you do have a duty to the public as well. Now we see this quote from Attorney Smith. He's a representative from Ventura County. He says, "We spent an inordinate amount of time on this. We did very much due diligence," and he expressed that it was frustrating not to see ethical behavior from the company. So here's several relevant cases. The first 2 have been settled out of court, which, as you know, is money out of your pockets. The last 4 are currently ongoing cases. If you see down here, we have Powell versus Oldham and Tyler Technologies, as well as Ingram versus Oldham and Tyler Technologies. Very recently, these have been merged into one case. Originally, Powell was pressing for a $10 million common fund to be set up. So now that they've merged into one case, we could expect this common fund to get more expensive. So let's talk about potential liability issues. This is a press release, and you stated that you do not know of any issues with Odyssey that have resulted in people being held in jail longer than necessary. Now, we do have many cases from around the country where this is not the case. Additionally, you said you were not named in that litigation, and in that litigation, you are referring to the Shelby County litigation. However, you actually are directly named in that litigation. You're one of the defendants. Additionally, you said in this press release that you're not a party to any litigation anywhere else in the country. We've seen from the last slide that that is also not correct. Now, I understand that you were trying not to implicate yourself, and that's why these statements were made. I do understand you don't want to implicate yourself because it could impact the cases that are currently ongoing. However, lying about it sets you up to go under fire for deceptive trade practices as well. So how can you be held accountable for the problems with your Odyssey case management system? Well, there's several different ways. The first being that the counties who are unhappy, who feel that you've breached the contract and not gave what you said you would deliver, they can sue you for breach of contract. We've seen this in Jefferson County, Missouri, and other counties as well. Additionally, something you should be aware of is sovereign immunity. Now, this isn't every county that you contract with, but some counties you contract with now or could contract in the future have something called sovereign immunity. So if they're unhappy with your service, they are legally allowed to just back out. And they can drop your contract and you have no recompense for getting that money back. You can't sue them in this situation. Now, when it comes to harm being caused to individuals, people can do one of two things. They can sue the county and Tyler Tech at the same time. This is what we've seen in Shelby County with those two cases that have been joined together. Or and this is where the potential for class action comes in. Additionally, the people could sue the county, then the county can turn around and sue Tyler Technologies. And this is what we're seeing in Marion County, Indiana. So briefly, I'll touch on class action lawsuits. Whether or not a case gets class certification, this can still financially impact your company. 61, as we see from this graph, 61.7% of settlement typically occurs pre-class certification. Additionally, companies say that the most important things in evaluating the success of a lawsuit is defeating class certification, the cost of settlement or trial, as well as coming under exposure, since this can harm your reputation. So here's some of the financial impacts of legal problems. We have the cost of direct, the past, current, and future lawsuits. Now this is direct financial costs of settling or going to trial, as well as hiring an attorney, as well as the reputational costs. Because if other counties hear about what's going on, or if the media hears about what's going on, you're more likely to miss out on future contracts. And as you know, this is money directly out of your pocket. As well as if other counties hear what's going on, if they hear that some counties have had success when suing you, they may get the courage to do the same thing. Or if people have had success in class action lawsuits, then more will see that success is possible. You could lose contracts that you have right now, and this again is where that sovereign immunity comes into play. Now, luckily our solution is completely legal. There's no restrictions that are keeping you from implementing our solution if you choose to do so. There are, however, potential lawsuits if you do not implement the updated version of the Odyssey program to the counties that you're already in contract with, especially if your county is experiencing a lot of these harms that are being caused. If they're having a lot of issues, they definitely need this updated version of the software. However, if our solution is not implemented, there is a high risk of continued legal problems, especially as you gain contracts with larger counties. So to talk about the financial aspects, I'm going to hand this off to Sam.
Thank you. Now as for the business side of things, your corporation has had rapid growth in recent years, including 20 acquisitions since 2007. We believe that your management structure has had a hard time keeping up with such substantial growth, resulting in these software failures. Now, it's interesting to keep in mind that with such rapid growth, you would see investor confidence on the rise. However, this is not the case. In fact, it's quite the opposite. As you can see here, your investors, your executive officers, are selling off more shares than they are willing to buy, which is a serious business problem as it shows a lack of confidence on their part. Now, I want you to take a step back and think about going through the process of developing a product. You have to get your requirements, design your product, and go through phases to release your product. And this is the same with software. So with the software development lifecycle, as you move through the different phases, the cost of a bug increases. Being that the Odyssey case management system is past its release date, the bugs are going to cost you a lot more than had you have caught them in the early stages of development. Going into the costs associated with software, your corporation charges counties $360,000 per county per year for maintenance fees. And these maintenance fees go towards support services as well as ongoing development, which umbrellas enhancement for the product and additions and fixing problems such as bugs. So about 20% of this $360,000 should be put towards these corrective maintenances. And that's about $72,000 out of the $360,000. And the question here is, where is this money going if counties are still having problems with the software? Delving more into the cost of the software failures, your corporation stands to lose $6 million per year just because of software failures. The Odyssey case management system has 150 developers. If you factor in 32 reactive hours, which include hours put towards fixing problems with the software, per developer, and factor in their annual average salary of about $70,000 per year, you equate to $6 million at a loss just because of software failures. Now, your corporation is not the only one at a loss here. Taxpayers in the United Kingdom lost $1 billion because of a software failure. The EDS, Electronic Data Systems Child Services Platform, had software failures due to poor integration practices where the software didn't match up with the hardware. It had a backlog of records, and records were being lost within the system. This should sound familiar, as these are a lot of the problems going on with the software from Tyler Technologies. Now, the United States taxpayers stand to lose $1 billion just because of software failures here. In addition, counties stand to lose as well. So, in order to maintain governmental funding, counties must maintain a 90% or higher success rate of sending records from the county to the Department of Public Safety. If software is impeding their ability to maintain this 90%, they're going to go after the entity responsible for these software failures, which in turn can cause legal action against your corporation. So with the counties seeking legal action and class action lawsuits, the costs can quickly surpass the revenue. In addition, a lack of response on the part of your corporation, as well as unhappy clients and a faulty product, can lead to a negative reputation, which in turn can lead you to be vulnerable to competitors. And I think at this point we can all agree that this is not okay. So to delve into some ways to mitigate these immediate risks, we propose that you hire a team of 5 software developers. And according to the Quantitative Software Management Group, 5 is the most optimal sized team. And factoring in the average annual salary, we get to $350,000 approximate for this. In addition, to enhance your transparency and put good faith back into your corporation, we propose that you inform your clients that you are putting effort into solutions for their problems. Furthermore, we propose that you ask your quality assurance team to create more test cases and stress test your software to ensure that it will work for all sized counties. So you may be wondering, how can I get this as cheap as possible to solve these problems? Well, the simple answer is to not test anything. But in setting your test cost to $0, you run the risk of setting your user base to 0 as well. So the simple answer here is to work towards a solution. In addition, we propose some ways to mitigate immediate or future risks, excuse me. So a software auditor will go through your code and find vulnerabilities and inform you of these and look through to ensure you follow system design principles. And Metric Scheme is a software auditor that costs about $170,000 for the first year and cheaper for continuing of their services. They have put some research into their company and state that you will save about $500,000 per year, which is about what you would be putting into this proposed solution. So it kind of equals out here. In addition, converting your clients to the Tyler Private Cloud will ensure that everyone's working on a centralized build and that it's all the most up-to-date Odyssey case management system. Worst case, that'll be about $60,000. However, some of your counties already utilize the cloud, so this is, again, worst case. And it will require some upfront costs here. However, the benefits will greatly exceed these costs when you have a positive reputation, happy clients, a functional product, and strength over your competitors. And now that I've gone over the financial side of things, I'm going to pass things off to my colleague Gray, who will explain the ethical aspects.
Thank you, Sam, and good afternoon, board. So, my name is Gray Jameson, as she previously mentioned, and I will be introducing the ethical portion of our argument. Now, first I would like to delve straight into the concept of how Tyler Technologies is inadvertently resulting in a subversion of justice. So, as previously explained by my colleagues, the Odyssey case management system is filled with some bugs, and it is resulting in people being wrongfully incarcerated. And as a result, it's generating false arrest warrants, and it's resulting in people who didn't commit crimes going to jail over crimes that they didn't commit. Now that's resulting in their freedoms being imposed upon as well as their autonomy. And it's also imposing upon their personal lives, their professional lives, and their relationships. And ultimately, it's reducing the operational efficiency of the local justice systems and the efficiency of society as a whole. Because when you pull out people who are productive, giving productivity to society, and you put them in jail for crimes that they didn't commit, you're taking them away from their ability to continue adding productivity to that society. And ultimately, whether your company means to or not, it's therefore treating people as means to an end, as opposed to as an end only. Now, I'd also like to delve into what what your company says that you represent, because I think that's a very important portion of business ethics. So, you state that you're dedicated to helping local government and school clients streamline their processes and make it easier for them to manage their business functions. You also put an emphasis on the fact that you want to develop, implement, and support software solutions that deliver again and again. Now, these are fantastic values to stand for, but sadly, the truthfulness of these statements is being imposed upon by your product, the Odyssey case management system. Now, I would like to delve into a very basic business ethics concept, which is the responsibility of a producer to be truthful to his clients. Now, when you sell a good or a service, it needs to do exactly what you advertise. That's very straightforward. And your company says that you want to develop business solutions and help them with their everyday operations. But sadly, many of the counties actually that you serve have reported that they would be faster at their day-to-day operations had they gone back to the original pen and paper filing method of their criminals. And so you kind of owe it to your customers to deliver a product that's going to function exactly as you say it will, saying that it will help with their everyday business functions. And here there's kind of a breaking of the social agreement and treating your customers as objects as opposed to individuals. Now, moving on again, I'd like to talk on how accountability in the sector needs to be raised. So certain products are of such essential functions to society that they place an added level of responsibility on the producers. And examples of these essential functions are things like the justice system, or the medical industry, or financial services. And to give it a brief example of this, let's consider production standards of a pacemaker. So pacemakers are very essential little devices, as people's lives tend to rely on them. So if they weren't held to production standards of high quality, then you would be risking people's lives on poor engineering. If you, let's say, had them put to the same production standards of a Hamilton blender from Walmart, you would be looking at a very serious problem. Now, there should be no less accountability for our justice sector. And the standards of our public servants exemplifies this, because we hold them to high standards, and we should also hold software companies that provide solutions to the government to the same standards as the public servants. And furthermore, operational efficiency in this sector needs to be more of a priority. Currently, inadvertently, you're harming the utility of the justice systems by way of a poor allocation of resources. And furthermore, as an industry leader, which your company serves over 600 counties in the United States, you can be considered an industry leader. You need to be setting the bar for these software companies that are providing solutions to the government. You need to be setting the standard. And with that, I'd like to ask you, what kind of standard do you want to set? What does your company want to stand for? So, moving onward, I'd like to go on to my final point, which is the fact that a corporation is a guest in society. Now, I base this on the concept that business entities are legal fictions created by operation of law. And what I mean by that is that just as a citizen can sue the government or sue a business is also given similar rights to sue another business or the government. And in this right, they are kind of a legal fiction. They're given somewhat rights of a citizen. But along with these rights that they're given as a citizen, they also have obligations to society. So Tyler Technologies owes its success to people and the government that it serves. And because your company has a fiduciary role as a company that bids on government contracts, you have a duty not only with this social contract that I previously mentioned, but also in your physical contract that you have with these counties. And currently, by not delivering a consistent product that acts as you market that it will, you're kind of in violation of both of these contracts. So I'd like to cover our solution one more time briefly and explain how it corrects your ethical violations. So you would be in accordance with all parts of your mission statement, therefore standing for what you believe in and what you state that you're standing for. You would be maintaining honesty and credibility with your stockholders. You would no longer be causing an inadvertent subversion of justice. And you would be setting a quality industry standard for other software companies to set themselves to. In addition to that, you would be improving the efficiency of local governments, which per your mission statement, that's what you're interested in doing. And furthermore, you would be fulfilling your duty of contract, both social and physical. And with that, I would like to hand this on to my colleague to conclude our argument.
Thank you, Gary. Now, just to drive the point home, I want to go over our findings, our solutions, and the benefits that implementing our solutions will have. Our findings show that technological problems with your Odyssey case management program are having significant legal, financial, and ethical issues to your company and the public sector. Our solutions are fivefold. Deploy a development team that will work on your software right now. Inform your clients that there are patches coming through to their softwares. And implement quality assurance testing to make sure that your product has the proper testing and stress that it can handle. Also, long-term, convert all your counties to a cloud-based system. This will make maintenance a lot easier. And finally, contract a third-party auditing team. This will make sure that all your code is up to date and there are no bugs that will present themselves. Finally, you won't only present a better product to your clients, you'll have more satisfied clients. You'll have confidence back in your stockholders, you'll have a good reputation, and you'll have strength in a field that you already have strength in. Now, I hope that we've met your expectations and our findings, and that we've seen eye to eye on the solutions that need to be in place. Thank you so much for trusting our team to analyze your company. We hope that we answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And I'll start out with a question. And that is that you talked about some ethical issues here and how we have angered some of our clients. And if I understand you correctly, we've angered them beyond just the fact that we have a product that didn't work well. What I see in your solutions are all about the product and making the product work. Do we have more work to do on the ethical issues that we created for ourselves by according to your information, putting profits ahead of our customers? So, do you understand my question? I got a little long.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Will fixing the product take care of everything?
Yeah, I believe that is best handled by both our ethical expert and our legal expert in the sovereign immunity and how fixing our product will help with legal cases and the ethical parts of our case.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good question. So when it comes to implementing our solution, once the solution is implemented, Tyler Tech will, as I said in my presentation, you're going to have to offer this solution to the counties that you're already in contract with. Now, when that happens, that's going to fix a lot of the bug problems that they already have. The legal cases that you currently have and the counties where you're currently coming under fire for legal issues, that's most likely not going to go away. There are individuals who have definitely been harmed. But in the state of California, your technology was implemented in multiple counties, and they are all having significant issues with it. They've actually created a user group because they're just trying to iron it out. They don't want to find a new software, but they're willing to. If you offer a fix to this, that increases their ability to function properly. And they're not going to go and spend additional money on another technology if it's working fine. And our representative from Alameda County, Brendan Woods, said something to this exact thing. He just wants it to work. If it doesn't work, they're willing to go somewhere else. But
So all we have to do is fix, if I understand what you're saying, all we have to do is fix our product and the rest of the problems are going to go away.
hopefully that is what we will see. That's what we can look out for. I'm not going to guarantee any problems will go away. And I will say one more thing before I hand this on to Gray. It's easy enough to say all technology has bugs. It happens. And luckily, this hasn't gotten to the point yet where there have been tons of civil law, tons of lawsuits regarding this. So at this point, once you fix that technology, you can admit, hey, we had a bug in our software, but look at everything we're doing to fix it. I would put out a press release about that. And then you're gonna look honest and you're gonna look like you have a lot of clarity. And I think Ray wants to
One more and we'll move to my fellow board members.
Well, I absolutely agree that there have been some ethical violations here that need to go further than just releasing, let's say, a patch. While releasing a patch, as explained by my colleague, is definitely going to fix a lot of the issues that we've already seen, and do a lot to mitigate future problems and future ethical violations. I do agree that Tyler Technologies needs to maintain truthfulness in the lawsuits that it's currently being put through, and I agree that they need to release a press statement apologizing for the inconveniences that people have seen, because yes, this has already imposed on people's freedoms, it has already imposed on people's autonomies. And I think it's very essential for this patch that is released with the number of bugs that have been already experienced, for them, all the counties, to not have to pay a maintenance fee for this next update that's upcoming. And that's part of a way to apologize for many of the issues that they've currently seen. And I hope that answers your question sufficiently.
Colleagues?
I think you might have covered this in the beginning, but how long has the counties or other stakeholders been experiencing technical issues with our product?
We can trace that back to one of our first cases, which we would be able to recall.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jefferson County, the case from Jefferson County, Missouri was from 2009. However, we've seen increased cases. It seems to be growing. The technological issues seem to be growing exponentially since then. So where we only saw a few issues in 2009, it's been steadily increasing since then.
Okay. So one of the reasons I was asking is that it seems that the PR damage that has been happening for the last almost 10 years now, it seems, and what may even come before we can catch it, seems to be irreparable in many ways. And I'm wondering, as consultants guiding us as board of directors, would you even suggest us pulling out completely as a show of goodwill? I don't know what the financial implication would be of that. Do you know what the implication to our business would be should we decide to pull out?
So your court and justice solutions are make up about 20% of your revenue. So pulling the Odyssey case management system from the market is not likely the best business strategy per se. And you have to keep in mind that you can't just stick a Band-Aid on this and hope it heals, right? We have to put some bacitracin on it and give it some time to heal and give our proposed solution the time it needs to fix the problems. So because it does make up so much of your business revenue, we wouldn't recommend that. And I hope that answered your question.
I was just thinking about the runway time it would take to fix something, and then the ethical responsibility that we would then have to additional people who would be hurt in the process.
I would like to add that you'd also cause additional ethical harm to your reputation as a company by just backing out because your product stopped working instead of trying to fix your product. And also the financial harm you would cause those counties by having to go and get a new system that can cost upwards of millions of dollars.
Absolutely. And if I can add to that as well, I know you mentioned sort of a timeline for fixing properties and such. I mentioned pushing all counties to the cloud-based system, and this is really great because, you know, like I said, if you have various on-prem solutions, it's not as easy to access those places when it comes to like pushing updates and stuff. And so if you're able to pinpoint like Ventura County is having a problem and they are using this set of hardware and they're on the cloud, you can kind of simulate those situations and understand how is Odyssey running for them and run these sort of test cases to really figure out what would be a good way to rewrite source code or edit it in such a way that it will work for them, and then easily deploy it to them through cloud-based. You know, it's like Netflix. Like we don't download Netflix on our computer, and they perform updates all the time that we don't even see. But those updates are happening so that they work for largely everybody who uses the system.
One other question real quick is that, are there other tech companies, maybe in Silicon Valley or other places, that are noticing this trend and maybe wanting to step in and offer their product as basically our competitor if we're not able to fix something?
Regarding like cloud-based technology or like a solution to like...
It could be another solution.
I think that question is also really well handled by Leah, who can talk about the contracts that Tyler Tech and other larger companies have with local governments and across the U.S.
There are several other case management systems out there. One is really well known, and it mostly deals with the large counties. As you all know, you tend to deal with smaller counties. And so part of the problem is integrating when you start dealing with a larger county than normal. These will solve those problems. But we've seen most of your problems do arise in the larger counties that you've been contracting with more and more recently. So did that answer your question?
So I'm troubled not only by the technical failures, but some of your data with respect to the dishonesty in the press releases, the number of cases that have been brought forward, and what that says to me is that there is a failure of ethical leadership here. Not only folks working on the product who are not bringing forward these bugs that are coming up, but also a failure of leadership to address it and fix it and being truthful. So my question to you is, in addition to the technical fixes, would you recommend that we ask for the reservations of the COO, the CFO, the CEO, and other management and other leadership? And if so, what should we be looking for in terms of replacing? And if not, what can we do to build an ethical leadership environment?
I think that you've raised a very good and very valid concern. I think that it would be wise, given the structure of the company currently, to see how John Marr, our CEO, and other financial and executive officers are able to comply during these phased rollout fixes. But some of our research that we've done, we saw issues mainly in the middle to lower management of this company. And that was where there was a lack of communication between people like the programmers, something that should have definitely been brought about by the lower middle management. And while CEO John Marr and other executive officers haven't really been in direct contact with the public to speak on these issues publicly, it's hard to see where they stand on the issue itself. And from what we've seen on Glassdoor and speaking to employees in person, it seems to be mainly an issue between programmers and the lower to middle management. And I think that there should definitely be a deep investigation into how they are handling these issues and what kind of people they are, and kind of finding the solution by turning the company inside out to see where these problems manifest themselves.
It's interesting. I mean, it could doing that level of investigation to mid to low management could reveal human error, lack of communication, lack of training. There's so many things that could happen in that translation of requirements to code, and so I think that would be interesting to see what it reveals.
would you recommend sort of a climate survey? What I'm troubled about in raising this issue is whether there is a climate of folks who feel they cannot raise issues that they're noticing because management doesn't want to hear it, or whether there's another reason for the lack of communication between, you know, the middle to low management and upper management. And I'm wondering what kinds of solutions we should be looking at to either address fear of raising issues or the lack of communication between those two sides.
And that's a very important concern. That's one of the first things that we started looking at as we researched into this company to see how it was handling these problems, where they came from originally. And based on our research, we went through a number of Glassdoor reviews, which, if you're familiar with the company, you can see what employees say about a company that they work for. And a lot of them were reporting issues with Tyler Technologies, let's say, abusing the H-1B1 visa system and bringing in foreign programmers because they could get the work out of them for less cost. And it resulted in the programmers not being able to communicate with each other efficiently about the product that they were making. And when you have programmers working together on the same product, but they're not able to communicate, it is very ripe climate for bugs to evolve and come from. We also read that management, we didn't include it in our presentation because we can't confirm Glassdoor reviews for their authenticity. But as you bring up this question, I feel like it's important to mention what we have seen at least, which is that management is supposedly very cliquish, especially middle to lower management, which is why I recommended that, and that they're not very receptive to their answers. Once they receive their management position, they seem to be a little more withdrawn from the inner workings of their inferiors, if you may, as how they tend to view them. So I think that it would definitely be in the company's best interest going forward to look very deeply at the lower portions of the company, the people who are really putting their hands on this product, on this technology. I hope that answers your question sufficiently.
I also, to add on to that, I think it's also clear in their mission statement that they celebrate very well, that they do care about these issues, and that upper management will do a good job of assessing the middle staff to address these issues as well.
And if it's okay, I'd just like to reiterate what Grace said as well, because I agree with him that it's very important. When it came to John Marr and the other heads of the company, if you do end up implementing our solution, just paying attention to see if corners are continuing to be cut throughout the rollout will most likely tell you where they stand on this. Because if it's them cutting corners from the beginning, you can tell because they'll continue to cut corners with the solution. So I did just want to reiterate that account.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and with your permission, we would like to step out of our role as board members, and you step out of your role as consultants, and it's okay with you, we'd love to give you some feedback on your analysis, on your topic in general, on your presentation, and see if we can be helpful to you going forward. Do you remember,